Have you ever walked into a room and completely forgotten why you're there? Or struggled to recall the name of someone you've known for years? For Martha Jenkins, a 72-year-old retired school teacher from Portland, these moments weren't just occasional lapses, they were becoming her daily reality. Martha had always prided herself on her sharp mind. Crossword puzzles had been her daily ritual for decades. But suddenly, those crosswords weren't enough. The words wouldn't come. The connections wouldn't form. And for the first time in her life, Martha felt something she never expected to feel: fear. Fear that her mind, the one thing she had always relied on, was beginning to fade. I want to share Martha's journey with you because it might sound familiar. Maybe not for you personally, but perhaps for a parent, a grandparent, or even a friend. Maybe you're starting to notice these changes in yourself. Martha described that moment of realization to me in vivid detail. She was hosting her weekly bridge game, something she'd done for over 30 years. Cards had always come naturally to her. She could remember every play, anticipate her opponent's strategies, and calculate probabilities without even thinking about it. But that Tuesday afternoon was different. She couldn't keep track of which cards had been played. She forgot the score multiple times. And when her friend of 40 years, Susan, asked her a question, Martha called her Sarah, a name that belonged to no one at the table. The look on their faces, Martha told me, her voice cracking slightly, it wasn't just confusion. It was pity. And that's when I knew something had to change. Martha had always believed that her daily crossword puzzles were keeping her mind sharp. After all, isn't that what we've all heard? Do your crosswords, maybe some Sudoku, and your brain will stay young. But for Martha, and for millions of older adults, these passive activities were proving insufficient against the cognitive challenges of aging. Before we continue with Martha's story, let's talk briefly about what happens to our brains as we age. And don't worry, this isn't going to be a dry science lecture. I promise to keep it relevant and straightforward. Our brains are remarkably resilient organs, but they do change over time. Starting in our late 20s, yes, that early, we begin to lose brain cells. By the time we reach our 60s and 70s, our brains have typically shrunk in volume, particularly in the prefrontal cortex and hippocampus, areas crucial for learning, memory, planning, and other complex mental activities. Blood flow to the brain decreases. Neurotransmitter levels change. Connections between neurons, the pathways that allow our brain cells to communicate, begin to degrade. It's like a garden, where the paths are slowly being reclaimed by weeds and undergrowth. But here's where the story gets interesting and hopeful. While some degree of cognitive change is normal with aging, significant decline is not inevitable. The concept of neuroplasticity, our brain's ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections, doesn't disappear as we age. It just needs the right kind of stimulation. And this is where Martha's crossword puzzles fell short. They were engaging the same neural pathways day after day, year after year. They weren't creating new connections. They weren't challenging her brain in diverse ways. Martha's bridge game embarrassment became her catalyst for change. She could have retreated, made excuses, perhaps even stopped hosting altogether. Many people do exactly that when faced with cognitive challenges. They narrow their world, stick to what feels safe, and inadvertently accelerate their cognitive decline. But Martha did something different. That evening, after everyone had gone home, she sat at her computer and typed, "How to improve memory at 72." What she discovered surprised her. The latest research on cognitive health wasn't recommending more crosswords or memory games. It was suggesting a comprehensive approach that engaged multiple cognitive domains simultaneously. Activities that combined mental challenge, physical movement, social interaction, and novelty showed the most promising results. I realized I'd been trying to maintain my brain with the equivalent of a single vitamin, Martha told me, when what I needed was a complete nutritional overhaul. The next morning, Martha made a decision. She would give herself 30 days to try a completely different approach to brain health. She called it her Brain Renovation Project. Martha's plan wasn't complicated, but it was comprehensive. She focused on 4 key areas that research has shown are crucial for cognitive health: varied mental stimulation, physical activity, social engagement, and new learning experiences. Let me walk you through what she did, because these are strategies anyone can adopt, regardless of age or current cognitive function. Martha didn't abandon her beloved crosswords completely, but she dramatically expanded her mental workout routine. She added pattern recognition puzzles that required visual spatial processing, logic problems that exercised reasoning abilities, word games that challenged language processing in different ways, memory exercises specifically designed for older adults. The key difference was variety. Rather than doing the same type of mental activity each day, Martha rotated through different cognitive challenges that engaged distinct parts of her brain. It was humbling at first, Martha admitted. I was used to being good at crosswords, and suddenly I was struggling with these new puzzles. But that struggle, that mental effort, is exactly what my brain needed. She discovered online resources specifically designed for cognitive training in seniors, including several free platforms that offered progressive levels of difficulty. Unlike generic brain games, these programs adapted to her performance, becoming more challenging as she improved. This approach aligns perfectly with what neuroscientists call deliberate practice, pushing just beyond your current abilities rather than staying in your comfort zone. For effective mental stimulation games, the sweet spot is challenging enough to require focus, but not so difficult that it becomes frustrating. Martha had always been physically active. She walked her dog twice daily and attended a weekly gentle yoga class. But she learned that certain types of physical activity have particularly beneficial effects on brain health. She incorporated aerobic exercise that elevated her heart rate for at least 20 minutes, 3 times weekly coordination exercises that challenged her balance and spatial awareness, hand-eye coordination activities that formed new neural pathways, movement patterns that crossed the body's midline, engaging both brain hemispheres. I started taking dance lessons, Martha told me with a laugh. Ballroom dancing. At 72, my husband thought I'd lost my mind. But research shows dancing is one of the most effective physical activities for brain health because it combines so many elements: memory, coordination, social interaction, and aerobic exercise. Indeed, studies have shown that dance may be one of the most effective physical activities for preventing dementia. A 21-year study published in the New England Journal of Medicine found that dancing was associated with a 76% reduced risk of dementia, the greatest risk reduction of any activity studied, including reading and doing crossword puzzles. For those with mobility limitations, Martha discovered seated dance classes and other adaptive movement programs specifically designed for seniors. The key wasn't the intensity of the movement, but rather the novelty and coordination required. Perhaps the most transformative aspect of Martha's plan was her deliberate focus on meaningful social interaction. Research consistently shows that social isolation is as damaging to cognitive health as smoking or physical inactivity. Martha's social brain-boosting activities included joining a book club that required deep discussion and perspective-taking, volunteering to teach English to recent immigrants, forcing her to communicate in new ways, participating in group problem-solving activities at her local senior center, having regular video calls with her grandchildren where they taught each other new skills. The social component was what I'd been missing most, Martha reflected. My world had gradually shrunk to my husband, my bridge friends, and occasional family visits. I didn't realize how that was affecting my brain until I started expanding my social circle again. Neuroscience explains why social interaction is so powerful for brain health. Social conversations require complex cognitive processing. We must listen attentively, interpret facial expressions and tone of voice, recall relevant information, formulate appropriate responses, and inhibit inappropriate ones. It's like a full brain workout that feels like fun rather than work. For seniors who may be homebound or have limited mobility, online communities can provide meaningful social connections. Martha joined several virtual groups focused on her interests and scheduled regular video chats with friends and family. The final component of Martha's plan was perhaps the most challenging and the most rewarding. She committed to learning something completely new, a skill that would force her brain to create entirely new neural pathways. I decided to learn to play the ukulele, Martha said, showing me the compact instrument she now carries almost everywhere. I'd never played any musical instrument before. I couldn't read music. It was completely foreign territory. Learning a musical instrument in later life is particularly beneficial for brain health because it engages so many cognitive processes simultaneously: memory, fine motor coordination, auditory processing, pattern recognition, and creative expression. But the specific activity matters less than its novelty. Other participants in Martha's Senior Center chose different new skills: digital photography and photo editing, a foreign language, drawing and painting, computer programming, cooking cuisines from different cultures. The key is that it has to be new to you, Martha explained. Something that makes your brain work in ways it isn't accustomed to working. And it has to be challenging enough that you can't master it quickly. This approach is supported by research showing that learning new, complex skills in older adulthood can improve memory function and may even change the physical structure of the brain. A study from the University of Texas at Dallas found that seniors who learned challenging new skills showed improvements in memory that matched the performance of adults 30 years younger. Now, let's talk about what happened after Martha's 30-day brain renovation project. The changes weren't immediate. In fact, the first week was frustrating. Martha felt mentally exhausted. The new activities highlighted cognitive weaknesses she hadn't noticed before. She struggled with the ukulele finger positions. The logic puzzles sometimes left her feeling defeated. There were moments I wanted to quit, she admitted. To go back to my comfortable crosswords and familiar routines. It would have been easier, but Martha persisted. And around day 12, something shifted. I was at my dance class, following a new step sequence, when I realized I was remembering all the steps without effort. That same morning, I'd completed a logic puzzle that would have stumped me the week before. Small things maybe, but they felt significant. By the end of the 30 days, the changes were noticeable not just to Martha, but to those around her. Her bridge game improved dramatically. She could track cards and strategize more effectively. She found herself recalling names and details about people she'd just met. Her vocabulary seemed to expand, with words coming to her more readily. She felt more mentally alert, especially in the afternoons when she used to experience brain fog. Her sleep improved, which created a positive feedback loop for cognitive function. But the biggest change, Martha told me, her eyes brightening, was confidence. I stopped being afraid of my own mind. I stopped worrying about what I might forget or miss. That fear had been exhausting in ways I hadn't even recognized. Martha's experience isn't unique. A growing body of research supports the effectiveness of comprehensive brain health programs that address multiple aspects of cognitive function. A 2-year study published in the Journal of the American Medical Association found that older adults who participated in a multi-domain intervention, including cognitive training, physical exercise, nutritional guidance, and social activities, showed significant improvements in cognitive function compared to those receiving regular health advice. What exactly happened in Martha's brain during those 30 days? While we can't know the precise neurological changes without brain imaging, neuroscience gives us some compelling explanations. First, the variety of mental challenges likely created what scientists call cognitive reserve, essentially backup neural systems that can compensate when primary systems are compromised. Think of it as creating multiple paths to the same destination, so if one road is blocked, you have alternatives. Second, the physical activities, particularly dance, increased blood flow to the brain and stimulated the production of proteins called neurotrophic factors, which act like fertilizer for brain cells, enhancing their function and promoting connectivity. Third, the social engagement likely reduced stress hormones like cortisol that can damage the hippocampus, the brain's memory center, while increasing beneficial neurochemicals like oxytocin that promote neural health. Finally, learning the ukulele created entirely new neural pathways, a process that becomes increasingly important as we age. These fresh neural connections can compensate for age-related losses elsewhere in the brain. Doctors. Michael Merzenish, a leading neuroscientist in the field of brain plasticity, explains it this way: the brain is constantly remodeling itself according to the uses to which we put it. In other words, our brain responds to demands we place on it. Challenge it in new ways, and it will reorganize to meet those challenges. For Martha, the comprehensive approach created a virtuous cycle. Better sleep improved her ability to learn. New learning enhanced her confidence. Greater confidence led to more social engagement. More social engagement reduced stress. Reduced stress improved memory function. And on it went, each element reinforcing the others. Martha's story doesn't end at 30 days, of course. Cognitive health isn't a destination, but a journey. After her initial success, she made these brain-strengthening activities a permanent part of her lifestyle. I realized that this isn't like taking antibiotics for an infection, where you complete the course and you're done, Martha explained. It's more like physical fitness. You don't exercise for a month and then consider yourself set for life. Brain health requires ongoing commitment. That said, Martha did make some adjustments to create a sustainable long-term approach. She rotates through different types of mental stimulation games rather than trying to do everything every day. She combines activities when possible, like attending a Spanish language dance class that engages both language learning and physical coordination. She schedules brain health activities when her energy is highest, typically in the morning. She involves friends and family in her brain exercises, making them more enjoyable and adding a social component. 6 months after her initial 30-day experiment, Martha hosted her bridge club again. Not only did she remember everyone's name, but she also played her best game in years. One friend pulled her aside afterward and asked what had changed. Everything, Martha told. And it all started when I realized crossword puzzles weren't enough. Now, you might be wondering how to apply Martha's experience to your own life or the life of someone you care about. Here are some practical strategies based on both Martha's journey and the latest research in cognitive health. Begin by examining your current mental activities. Are you, like Martha, relying primarily on one type of cognitive exercise? Are you challenging different aspects of cognition, memory, attention, processing speed, problem-solving, language skills? Many seniors fall into cognitive ruts, repeatedly engaging the same neural pathways while neglecting others. A simple audit of your weekly activities can reveal opportunities for more balanced brain stimulation. The most effective brain exercises for elderly individuals involve variety. Consider incorporating visual spatial puzzles like jigsaw puzzles or pattern recognition games, verbal challenges like word-finding games, or storytelling numerical exercises beyond standard Sudoku logic problems that require deductive reasoning memory games specifically designed for older adults. Online platforms like BrainHQ, Lumosity, and CogniFit offer programs designed by neuroscientists. Target multiple cognitive domains. Many public libraries also offer free access to these premium brain training programs. Not all physical activity provides equal benefits for brain health. The most effective exercises combine cardiovascular activity that increases blood flow to the brain, coordination challenges that engage the cerebellum, novel movement patterns that create new neural pathways, social interaction that adds cognitive complexity. Consider activities like dance classes, Tai Chi, water aerobics, or even active video games designed for seniors. The goal isn't necessarily intense exercise, but rather movement that engages your brain in new ways. Social interaction provides cognitive benefits that solitary activities cannot match. Look for opportunities that combine socialization with cognitive challenge. Discussion groups focused on books, current events, or philosophical questions, collaborative problem-solving activities or team games, intergenerational programs that connect seniors with younger people, volunteer opportunities that require communication and empathy for those with mobility limitations. Technology offers increasingly accessible ways to maintain meaningful social connections. Video calling, online communities, and virtual group activities can provide substantial cognitive benefits. Learning a new skill is perhaps the most powerful brain-boosting activity for seniors. The key is choosing something genuinely novel to you, personally, complex enough to be challenging, engaging enough to sustain your interest, structured enough to show progress. Community centers, public libraries, and online platforms offer classes specifically designed for older learners. Many colleges and universities also offer free or reduced tuition for seniors. The most effective brain health plan is one you can maintain long-term. Consider starting with just 15-30 minutes daily of focused brain exercise, scheduling brain activities when your mental energy is highest, combining activities when possible, tracking your progress to maintain motivation, finding an accountability partner who shares your brain health goals. Remember that consistency matters more than intensity. Small daily actions accumulate into significant cognitive benefits over time. Cognitive function doesn't exist in isolation. Other lifestyle factors significantly impact brain health. Sleep quality, prioritize good sleep hygiene as memory consolidation occurs during deep sleep. Nutrition, focus on brain-healthy foods like fatty fish, berries, nuts, and leafy greens. Stress management, chronic stress damages the hippocampus and impairs memory formation. Cardiovascular health, what's good for your heart is good for your brain. Sensory stimulation, ensure vision and hearing are optimized, as sensory deprivation accelerates cognitive decline. A holistic approach that addresses these supporting factors can dramatically enhance the benefits of specific brain exercises. As we near the end of our time together, I want to address some common questions and concerns about brain health in older adults. Absolutely. While the brain does change with age, neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to form new connections continues throughout life. Martha's story is just one example among many documented cases of significant cognitive improvement in older adults. A landmark study known as the ACTIVE trial demonstrated that adults in their 70s and 80s could improve specific cognitive abilities with appropriate training, and these improvements persisted for up to 10 years. Even with diagnosed cognitive impairment, brain-strengthening activities can be beneficial. In fact, they may be even more important. Several studies have shown that comprehensive cognitive engagement can slow the progression of mild cognitive impairment and may delay the onset of dementia symptoms. The key is adapting activities to the appropriate level of challenge, difficult enough to provide stimulation, but not so difficult as to cause frustration or anxiety. Cognitive improvement timelines vary considerably based on individual factors, including age, baseline cognitive function, consistency of practice, and the specific activities chosen. Martha noticed subtle improvements after about 2 weeks, with more substantial changes evident after a full month. Some research suggests that certain cognitive abilities can show measurable improvement in as little as 10 days of targeted training, while other aspects may take several months to show significant change. The important thing is to focus on consistent engagement rather than rapid results. Not at all. While there are many excellent commercial products for brain training, effective cognitive stimulation doesn't require significant financial investment. Many of the most powerful brain-strengthening activities are free or low-cost. Public libraries offer books, puzzles, classes, and often free access to online brain training programs. Community centers provide social activities, exercise classes, and learning opportunities at minimal cost. Online resources include free cognitive games, educational videos, and virtual communities. Everyday activities can be modified to increase their cognitive challenge, like shopping without a list to exercise memory, or taking a new route while walking to engage spatial navigation. The key isn't the cost of the activity, but rather its novelty, challenge level, and engagement of multiple cognitive domains. Martha's journey from cognitive concern to renewed mental clarity demonstrates something remarkable about the human brain. It responds to how we use it, regardless of age. Her story reminds us that cognitive health isn't predetermined by genetics or chronological age, but is significantly influenced by our daily choices and activities. The research is clear: comprehensive approaches that combine varied mental challenges, physical movement, social engagement, and new learning experiences offer the most powerful protection for brain health in aging. Crossword puzzles alone, or any single activity, simply aren't enough. If you're concerned about your own cognitive function or that of someone you love, remember that meaningful improvement is possible at any age. The 30-day framework that worked for Martha provides a manageable starting point, though the journey continues well beyond that initial period. I encourage you to begin your own brain health journey today. Start small if needed, perhaps with just 15 minutes of a new cognitive challenge, or by signing up for that class you've been considering. The important thing is to begin. And remember Martha's words: the biggest change was confidence. I stopped being afraid of my own mind. That freedom from fear, the confidence that comes from actively engaging with your cognitive health rather than passively worrying about decline, may be the most valuable benefit of all. If you found this information helpful, please consider subscribing to our Brain Games Plus channel. We provide regular updates on the latest research in brain health, practical exercises you can incorporate into your daily routine, and inspiring stories like Martha's that remind us of what's possible at any age. Thank you for joining me today. Until next time, keep challenging your brain in new ways, because your cognitive future is being shaped by what you choose to do today.